Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Politics. Got a friend of TYT, Michael Woods here. You've been, along with Wes Clark Jr., kind of bringing in the thousands of veterans. Upwards of 2,000 veterans came in. Obviously, you came into a hectic blizzard, the breaking news of President Obama denying the easement. Kind of from start to finish, tell me what the experience has been like.
The experience.
Understatement.
I really don't know if I've been able to absorb what's even happened here yet. It's been nothing but nonstop. How do we deal with not just 2,000 people showing up like we had originally planned, and then the previous supply chain kind of falling apart because of the weather beforehand. So we had shipment delays already. And so we get here, we have limited resources, and it's not 2,000 people that showed up at all. And we're guessing somewhere between 4,000 to 4,500 of a lot of people that weren't on our rosters that we're accounting for. So that's what we showed up to, is like, oh no, this is a lot more people than we can possibly imagine. And then we noted errors in our ability to communicate from the very beginning, as we had people respond to locations that weren't what we had intended, and then the blizzard came. So when people were in locations that we didn't intend it and the blizzard came, we had to have a lot of people step up and get really creative and dig deep for resources to make sure everyone was safe, because we were dealing with over 4,000 people that were suddenly under this umbrella that, whether we were morally or ethically responsible, or it could be argued, but we felt that we were responsible to take on that bigger load. And it's been such a stressful show so far. I don't know exactly how I'm going to tell you what happened until we go back and really deconstruct how everything played out.
And so basically, you tried to cap it out around 2,000 just because, I mean, there's only so much space for so many veterans in the camp surrounding, and more veterans came that weren't on your roster. And then you have a blizzard here, as you could see, the Wi-Fi, the cell service, you got questionable people scrambling cell signals here. So it's very difficult to connect with people. And then there's the disinformation that goes around here, a lot of it from well-intentioned people. But half the time you hear, 50 people on the bridge. There's nobody on the bridge. Can you kind of talk about like what you've learned? I mean, I've been here a few times. This is your first time. What have you learned? It's a good place, for the water protectors and all that. But what have you learned that other people should know?
There are a lot of people here. And when there are a lot of people, you have a lot of different motivations and a lot of different causes that I think we're kind of viewing as one umbrella, but isn't really one umbrella at all. So you get, I don't know whether it's intentional misinformation or not, but I would think that 99% of the things that I have been told were factual here were completely not factual. And so people end up trying to rush to either cover something or make amends for something they think is wrong, or somebody that's missing or endangered in some way, shape, or form. So resources get flooded to something that isn't real. And it's really hard to get people to try and look at, no, what evidence do we have that this rumor is true, before they go out and feel like they need to do change. Because I mean, they're here because they want to identify the oppression. They want to fight it. And we got here, maybe the biggest problem really is that we won just by showing up, and a lot of people wanted to do something, and it wasn't sit in a blizzard. It was to do some kind of action. So I think there's a good bit of, hey, the blizzard hit us, we weren't ready for that, and we didn't get to do anything very exciting because we just got snowed in.
And also, like, tell me from a veteran's perspective, because I've interviewed a bunch of veterans the past few days, and it seems like, whatever was dormant from their time, that internal instinct that lie dormant a little bit, kind of got kicked into high gear when you feel like, I'm here, I need to protect these people, and there's injustice going, and I didn't fight and sacrifice potentially my life, family relationships, all that, to see an oil company run rampant. Did you see with your fellow veterans here, like, kind of a rebirth of those old feelings in the military?
So I guess, to be honest, we have two aspects of that. You have the vast majority of people who saw this as what they really wanted to do. And this felt like the first time in service, and there was an intense amount of camaraderie and well-being that a lot of people took on. But the ones that we're very action minded, maybe probably action oriented in the military, and we're used to having chaos and having to fight things with the chaos and misinformation. Here, it seems to have put them in that same kind of mode where a lot of people think that everyone is the enemy, and it's really just differences in methodologies. It's like the same thing, but we're all going about it different ways. If we could reunite those different ways, then things would be better, but they're just kind of fighting over which methodology is better.
And it's also the point of you're coming here to protect the water protectors, but also to support the Native Americans. So I'm assuming you didn't want to insert, you wanted to respect what tribal leaders and the natives on the ground are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that lead in because my brain's not functioning properly right now. But
You haven't slept in 2 days?
I don't know how many days I haven't slept in. But the different factions here who have different goals from even the tribal means go about, they want to approach things different ways, and then we're in their home. So we want to be a military, we want to be this strong unit, but this isn't our home. We have to serve the Sioux and do things in their ways, respecting their homeland, and that was a little confusing for people as well too, to really, I don't know, instead of being a warrior, to be a servant. So that's something we have to really think about next time, is how we continue to better uplift those that we're trying to promote in this movement, which isn't ourselves.
And I don't think it was a coincidence that this permit was denied, as 4,000 veterans, 2,000 on your roll came. I can't get in President Obama or the Army Corps' head, but just so happened, it happened the night before, potentially a confrontation happened. Can you kind of talk about your thoughts on him denying the permit? I know a lot of people think they're drilling anyway, despite not having proof of that. We've talked about it. What are your thoughts on both the denying of the permit and whether you think people should trust that?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you my opinion on what I really think, and which will probably ruin that as being a possibility once I state that that's what I think, unless they just ignore me. But this sounds to me like really they didn't want to pit the veterans against the police and the sheriff's department, because that optic is what everyone speculated that it would be if something happened. So once they started flooding in and you started seeing, I mean, I turned on Twitter when I was on the way, and it was like you just saw the airport full of veterans and everybody just flooding in, a mile-long line getting into the camp. So once you saw that, once they realized it was real and the veterans were really coming to stand up for the people, that was the back down. And now that they say that they're not going to drill and they're going to block the easement, I think that's true. When I hear the statements from the DAPL investors and company, they're saying that's business speak. That's investors. That's saying to your investors, please don't pull out. We're trying to go find something else to do. We're dedicated to this. I promise. Don't pull your money away from me. I'm trying to survive and do this business. If I were them, I would kind of try to keep people distracted on this and reignite something like the Keystone or some other way to go while people were focused on this. This is a big project, and if there's any integrity in the Army Corps of Engineers, which through this experience, I'm going to tell you there is. My relations and talks with the Army Corps of Engineers was entirely positive, and I will say that from my impression, that was a professional organization, and I think they're going to do the right thing. So you can probably rely on them to want to do this environmental survey properly.
And I just want to clear something up, because if I'm keeping it real, veterans were wondering, well, why are we running out of food, things like that. I tried to say, hey, this guy can't get the bank to give him his money. Just so viewers would know, tell us, whatever happened with this bank, you had this really unprecedented, successful GoFundMe, over $1 million, and then the bank was like, all this procedural nonsense. You couldn't get access to all of it.
I've spent no less than 24 hours on the phone with M&T Bank throughout this entire incident, thoroughly explaining every single day that we were supporting veterans coming up here, trying to get supplies to keep them safe. And it was every day there was an obstruction. And I don't want to be conspiratorial. I'm not being conspiratorial. I always figure it's ineptitude versus anything else. And whether it was the buses, like 6 of 11 buses broke down. The financial system collapsed on us with the M&T not releasing our money. The GoFundMe, people see the 1.1 million, and while GoFundMe has been great, then they take 5% off the top. The transfer fees take another 2 to 3% off of that. And then there's like a 5-day delay from when they send it into your bank, and then another 3-day delay until they actually give it to you. And then by the time they actually put it in my bank account, then every single day could only spend like $4,000 or $5,000. So you would have to call them in the morning to get more. And I would call them every morning, spend hours on the phone and explain, can you do this for more days? Can you understand that we have this money coming in and we need to do it to protect lives? And it was constant hassle. But the really breaking straw of why I had to go on Twitter and talk to you about it too was that we were in the middle of the blizzard trying to get funds released so we could get supplies and food and everything we can get to people. And they were saying too bad. And I was very clear. I needed $100,000 of a bank account that has $500,000 in it. They wouldn't release $100,000 in case I needed to buy a bulldozer or something to go and do an emergency operation. Luckily, we didn't need it, but I had to have such a resource there, and it was the financial system that was totally bankrupting me on that. And I think that if the Bitcoin people want to come in and do an analysis on this is probably going to be their best case that they've ever had for how bad our financial system is broken. They would not bend to protect the lives of veterans. It was ridiculous.
And last question. I think a lot of people who read quick headlines, oh, President Obama stopped the pipeline, even though, the Army Corps technically did, and kind of turn the page, but like war crimes have happened here. And as of now, there's been no consequences. The mainstream media, or as I say, the shame stream media, they came hoping for confrontation and, a cowboy contest, and they left. As a veteran, what's happened here. What do you think needs to happen? Because as people talk about, oh, you can't normalize Donald Trump and his racism, well, it can be said you shouldn't be normalizing war crimes and tear gas on unarmed people and grenades. There's a girl with half an arm now. There's another girl who went blind. What are your thoughts on that?
When you say that it was normalized, that is a common thread that I heard in a lot of the veterans that showed up as their final straw. It's not like they listened to me for a long time and heard me break down why I fight against it, because policing is this thing that you're talking about that is oppression and is corruption, it is crimes and is violence upon its people. It is the oppressor. So they weren't even there necessarily understanding the structure of that and wanting to fight it. What they saw was state-sanctioned agents prettied up in uniforms and badges injuring innocent people. When they talked about the water hose being sprayed on grandmothers and people that you should respect and nonviolent people, and then blaming it on the fires and outright lies that were left and right coming from the sheriff's office, it was like this thing here made everybody see and not be able to deny or hide in your privilege or advantages onto what policing can do and is willing to do to anyone.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having me.